And I was just like, I don't know how to relate to this character. He's super perfect. I couldn't get it right. And it took me a while to sort of see how to make him good. And of course, the only way you make something good is to bring yourself to it and to bring sort of your own emotions or whatever. And
welcome back to Thinking Critical, everybody. You know, I did my review on Batman 85, and with me today is Corbin from Frank Caliendo's Comic Playground podcast. How you doing, Corbin?
I'm doing good, Wes. Doing just fine. I mean, the topic we're about to get into, but aside from that, I can't complain.
So we recently did a look back at Tom King's run and some of the places where we think it kind of fell off the rails. We recently looked at James Tynion's mission statement where we think Batman's going. But you know, we gotta put a bow on this. We gotta finish up Tom King's run. City of Bane just completed. You know, it was like a 11 comic story arc. You know, is the big finale. You know, when the wedding happened, the fiasco, he said, you know, stay with me. This is a 100-issue story arc. It's going to conclude with City of Bane, and you won't be disappointed. And I don't know. I think I was pretty disappointed. How about you?
I would agree. I mean, I looked at it and went, we're not supposed to be, because they went like King went out of his way to kind of let readers down. There's just a myriad of ways that I was disappointed. But I'm right there with you. Like, it wasn't like I looked back and went, you know what? Rocky run, but solid finish. No.
You know, so one of the interesting things is we know originally the run was supposed to actually be 105 issues. DC Comics cut it short by 20 issues, and you can see that in this story arc. There's a lot of stuff that wasn't fleshed out beforehand that he had to cram in there, and it really messed up the pacing. It messed up the flow of the story, and I don't think he explained everything all that well. So, you know, let's kind of start at the beginning. At the end of, I think it was Fall of the Fallen, Bruce and Thomas Wayne end up at the Lazarus Pit. They fall out. When they both go down, we saw one hand come out. We don't know who it was. And then the next issue, we're in City of Bane. Gotham has been taken over by Bane. Bruce is climbing a mountain. But there's really no explanation on how we got here.
Yeah, it was really left open-ended, and I think that's the quality of writing or jumping ahead that King did a lot, where you get to these climatic, like, scene, this, you know, to be continued type of scenarios where one way or another we need to see who just got killed, who went over the edge here, what just happened, how it's going to lead to the next one. Then we wait the next week, couple weeks, whatever, get the book, open it up, and it's not addressing that. It's not picking up where we left off. It's jumping ahead, or we either both characters are fine, one character's gone, we don't know where he is, and then uses like a weird method of backtracking, but not in a congruent way, where we can go, oh, okay, now we're starting here in the present. We're going to go back to this climatic moment and figure out what happened. No, we start here, we go back, we go again, and I guess we as the readers are left to have to piece together the bits and pieces of this puzzle that King has now made to try to figure out what happened to these characters. And oftentimes, credit to us, I guess we find some semblance of doing that. Other times, it's just a big mess. And honestly, no matter what, it is more trouble than it's worth.
You know, the problem is, you know, he tried to go through and explain that eventually he explains that Lex Luthor let it happen. There was a deal that Gotham can kind of like be self-controlled by Bane and everything. But, well, there's a problem. There's a step before where Bane has to take the city over, and you have the Robins. I don't think that they would let that happen. You've got Superman, close friend of Batman. I don't think that he would let that happen. We have the Justice League. I don't think they would let that happen. But it's never explained why everyone just abandoned Gotham and let it be taken over by Bane and all of Batman's rogues gallery.
I mean, he did this. He's been doing this a lot too. You're right. Like the underutilization of not understanding Batman in general, but also his supporting cast. I mean, whether it is, like you said, the Robins, whether it's even extended to Superman, people like that. I mean, this started with I Am Gotham in that run when it was Gotham and Gotham Girl. And it wasn't until like way later that you even brought in Superman and others. And even that was, it felt like too little too late. And ultimately it was centered around Batman, Gotham being his city, yada, yada, yada. And I think King took that piece or that theme of Gotham being tied to Batman intimately, and this is Batman to protect, and just carried it almost to an outrageous effect. In fact, I think he did, in the sense that you're right. There are these cataclysmic events, the city's being taken over, main characters being killed, and yet not one Robin comes in except for a chance appearance here where he's traumatized by the death of, you know, one of his caretakers, or situations where oh, where would Superman be in this situation? Where would Robin be? Dick Grayson? Where are these other characters that we all know would show up in a moment like this? And I don't know if King went at the event with a certain gravitas necessary, or let me amend that. I think he did go with a certain sense of gravitas, but at the expense of some reality in terms of Batman,
Logic.
his supporting team, logic, exactly, and what would logically happen. It was okay, everything's big, everything's bad. One of the strengths of Batman as a character is not only him, his themes, what he stands for him, but also his supporting cast. And aside from Catwoman, who was exactly the Bat family, and it just wasn't, he seemed to have a fundamental misunderstanding of that again and again and again.
Yeah, so it's interesting, you brought up Damian Wayne, or you alluded to it. So, the next big event is basically, we're not going to get into this, but Tom King sacrifices Captain Atom on the altar of Gotham Girl to reestablish that character and show that her and Thomas Wayne are patrolling the city and basically capturing heroes or villains to be mind controlled by Psycho Pirate and sending out the heroes that try to come in and help out. And then so Damian Wayne infiltrates the city. He actually bests Gotham Girl using some magic, which I thought was pretty interesting, but I don't think that he would have used magic, but that's another debate. And he breaks into Wayne Manor, and it causes the murder of Alfred right in front of him. How did you think that was handled? Because the problem I have with it, I don't actually have a problem with Alfred being murdered. These characters die and everything, but he's a very important character. It was the way that it was handled. There was no tension. There was no shot of Alfred in jeopardy and Damian's trying to get there. And is he going to make it or is he not going to make it? It was just all of a sudden you haven't seen Alfred in 2 or 3 issues. There's a panel. He gets his neck broke. And it's like, what?
Yeah. It was confusion and frustration. I agree with you, Wes, in the sense that characters, I think it adds a certain element to, oh, wow, this is very real where these characters can die. Because I'm not going to lie, I walked in this going, oh, Alfred will be fine, yada, yada. But the infrequency in which he was used, and I kind of have to touch on the after effect of his death. But let me get to this first. His death first was shocking. And I went, what? Like on the last panel, are we serious right now? But then I said, okay, I explained in my head. Maybe he's not dead. Maybe David saw it. Exactly. And that there was an element there that manipulated Damian so that we couldn't really see it. We'll find out the next issue. Except we didn't. Okay, we'll find out the next issue. Except we didn't. And then it took like 2, 3, 4 issues for it to realize that, oh, wait, he's dead. And that, more than anything, ticked me off because I'm not reading the reviews in that sense. I'm like, oh, they don't know. I mean, they're assuming, like we all are, that he's dead. I mean, this could be a bait and switch, not in that sense, but like we thought we saw something that turned out, like you said, Psycho Pirate or something. And it was like, oh, wow, no, we had the death of a major Batman character and we didn't immediately address it, but not even in the next issue after this, which I feel logically would have done. It took several more for us to have this issue. And then it took to like into the 80s to have the deep Alfred retrospective that we should have had 10 issues ago when the event first happened. It was just off-putting and out of place for this continued run that is reaching a crescendo supposedly. So just the way that was handled was ham-fisted and very confusing. I think, Wes, you articulated better than I can. I'm going from pure emotion in this sense, but just in the sense that not only do you have this main character that we all know and love, and if you're going to kill him, I think that's fine, but just treat it with the respect that I think it is granted and due. From the moment he is offed to the moment that you look back on it, all of that, to the event that you're going to have now, I think next year for sure, but I think in March, I'm forgetting the exact date. All of that I think could have been streamlined and handled a lot better and not in this disjointed King style that never worked to begin with, but definitely doesn't work when you're dealing with someone like Alfred or someone that's prominent in the Bat family. I just don't understand it. I still haven't made sense of it.
Yeah, that's one of the overarching themes that, obviously it wasn't intentional, is King's absolute terrible timing and management of the story, because right after Alfred's dead and you're like, is this real? What are the ramifications? Is Damian okay? He just watched his, surrogate grandfather get murdered in front of him. The man practically raised him, once he was brought back to Gotham. The next issue is Batman and Catwoman in like Hawaii, getting frisky with each other on the beach, and it's the next 2 issues, and it's beautiful. The 2 most beautiful issues of the entire story arc. It's Clayman's art, gorgeously rendered, but it's just like, this is the worst timing in the history of the world for this issue. It makes it look like Bruce doesn't care about Alfred. It makes it look like Tom King doesn't care about Alfred, and that the death wasn't impactful. if it's supposed to be impactful, you got to tell me why it's important. Because right now you're telling me it's not, because we just went to Hawaii for a vacation.
Yeah. You said if the writer doesn't care about the character, and outside of Batman purist or comic fans for a long time, we're not led to believe that we should care about the character either. And the way that you interpret that, I get having, let's say, certain creators have ways they feel about certain characters, whether they're not as important or you basically use the device, whatever the case may be. I understand that. But like you're saying, Wes, there is a certain element of weightiness to this event that you have to handle. Not even delicateness, because I think that's too strong a word, but in the sense of you lose a character like this, let's address it as soon as possible, as timely a manner as you can. I'm not saying I would have done the first or second issue after the death, because that's how important it is from my vantage point. But fine. But you're right. Not only did this jointed use of time, but where it jumps to. We don't know how a Batman grieved. I mean, we find out later. We don't know how Damian grieved. This was a crazy event. And you're right. To have that scene was single-handedly just infuriating, because, okay, we're not going to address that. And I didn't think we were until he did later. And at that point, it almost seemed like he was, like you said, Wes, touch up. Let's go back on things that I should have done before to make them look logical in a sense of order. The trade paperback for this, which I won't be buying, is going to be kind of surreal and weird to read, because I can only imagine.
Right now, that issue where Alfred is murdered coming after the vacation in Hawaii, because the last page in the vacation in Hawaii, he says, I sent Damian into Gotham. Alfred's okay. And then if you had the next issue and you saw Damian's venture into Gotham and you see he's not okay, he's actually dead, Bruce doesn't know it, it would read so much better. And then you could do the impact. But he rearranged it. And it's the same thing, because when we came into in the City of Bane, the question was always, where the hell did Flashpoint Batman come from? He's supposed to be dead. That universe doesn't exist anymore. How does he get here? And why the hell is he here? He keeps saying he wants to be better than Batman. And then the second to last issue, he tries to retcon everything. And then he tells the story backwards, which made no sense, because there wasn't an aha moment when you told it backwards. Like when you tell a story backwards, it's because when you get to the beginning, all of a sudden you realized how it all put. I can't believe I missed it. Nothing like that. He just tells it backwards. And there's so many weird things in that issue where all of a sudden Selina Kyle in the Flashpoint Batman's universe is calling him dad. Like Selina and Bruce are sister and brother, sort of. If you want to think of it like that. And there's just a lot of stuff where they're retconning things from big events, like perfect deaths for characters. And it was in the absolute worst place. He should have told that in chunks throughout the story getting there, rather than trying to ham-fist it all into one issue, well past by the time he should have explained it already.
You know what? And you're saying readers, we've seen all of this. And the sad thing is, I'm sure you expected the same thing. Around issue 82, 83, I want to say, I knew that we were going to have an issue like 85, where, oh, wow, we're not tying up any plot holes. We're delaying them with retrospectives and tributes to Alfred that we should have done 3-4 issues ago, with storylines that are still long and convoluted, a waste of words in my opinion, especially if you're trying to settle multiple elements. Catwoman in this instance, Batman and Thomas Wayne, Batman's fallout from Alfred, all of these situations. The City of Bane, where the heck is Bane? I thought he was dead when he got shot, and apparently he's not. He just had a concussion. All of this, and you have a big 85, Batman 85 to kind of finish that, and you start with the same trope that has not been successful through most of your run, which is starting to back and jump around, and then you're dealing with a resolution with Gotham Girl, which I was like already moved on from, and all these different elements that you're trying to tie with the bow now, but you hadn't had the chance to do that before. And what's worse, it seems like when he was writing, for the most part, he wasn't reading what he did to begin with on the last issue. Because you're right, if you did, then that transition would at the very best be seamless, and at the very worst be mostly congruent in the sense of picking up where the storyline went off. And that's not what happened. The way that Batman and Catwoman's relationship, which was much maligned in my opinion as well, was totally not done correctly, at least. I mean, even down to, you're right, the very odd father, brother, sister, we don't need to put a label on our relationship deal, after you literally was leading up to this huge wedding, which I don't blame Tom King for around issue 50, but I'm just saying the build-up for that, the continued pushing Catwoman as a prominent character in the Batman title, and then ultimately I mean, I guess you have to continue with her being an important character, and she had this all under control, and then also saying, okay, by the way, you know, James Tyn's going to take over. We don't really want to tie anything up for him to have to undo or something. So we're just going to say, hey, they love each other so much, they don't need to put a label on it. And that was just a total cop-out to me. You said it, Wes. It just doesn't really make any sense. And I think that it led, and we all saw this 85 coming, this convoluted mess, down to, which I think was at equal parts brilliant, funny, and cringy, where it was Bruce Wayne and Kite Man in the bar watching the backup QB for the Gotham football game, which I guess was an allegory for Tom King and his writing and run. Exactly. And it was just...
There's always hope.
Yeah, and I was like...
it's like 6 pages. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, exactly. 6 pages of a book that you could have fleshed out several different storylines and brought them to a natural conclusion instead of wasting time on this. Did you get it? The wink, wink. You get what I'm trying to say? Tom King trying to tell the readers, this is who I'm standing for, which I thought was weird. Also, he seemed to really love Kite Man, and that inclusion of a character he was enjoying. Fine, I get it, but not in this book when you're trying to finish this run. And then also at the very end, you're right. Just the way they used it, it just didn't make any sense to me. And a lot of King's writing for Batman did not make any sense to me in terms of how he used it and that emotional feeling that we as readers are supposed to have to these events, to Batman, to this run.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that really destroyed, you know, City of Bane, rather than, you know, things are kind of out of order, he doesn't tell it very fluidly, but is the amount of filler issues he has to throw in there because they cut his run short by 20 issues. He's explaining, like, here's a whole issue of explaining all this stuff that doesn't make any sense, and of course it doesn't really add up, and it kills the flow of the story. And you're right, when you finally get to that issue where Bruce realizes that Alfred's dead and it's time to say goodbye to the character, it's been like 3 months since the actual event happened. All the impact is worn off, and when they get to it, there's so much bad stuff in there, you know, because if you go back to the very beginning of his run, when the moment when Bruce takes his vow is a moment, like, he precedes it. He's about to kill himself. He has a razor. He's going to take it to his thing, but he puts it down and he takes his vow. And we learn, you know, in that moment that Alfred was watching him. So I'm supposed to believe Alfred, whose job it was to take care of Bruce and he loved him, watched him almost kill himself as like an 8-year-old. Like, you're ruining the character. You're ruining Alfred's legacy. And basically Alfred committed suicide rather than, because he gave up hope. He no longer believed that Batman and his family would come and save him. He thought them coming in there and trying to save him was there was no hope left. So he said, I'm going to end my life by basically getting myself murdered. And I think it was supposed to be a noble death, a noble suicide. There's no such thing as a noble suicide. Tom King used suicide far too much in his Batman run, and I think it destroyed the emotional impact that you were supposed to get with Alfred. And all I could think of was like, man, does he hate these characters? Like, I almost think he hates the characters.
I mean, I can see why you would think that, especially since the suicide use and continued use of it, especially in terms to Alfred, was confusing at best, off-putting, and concerning at worst. And I mean, me as a reader, I was like, are you kidding me? And I talked to some friends of mine, and some are like, no, it was noble. He was doing this, he was doing that. And I'm like, but do you understand that he was throwing himself away because he did not believe in Batman, in Bruce, in the Bat family? I said, not only do you take that relationship between the Bat family and shake it to its core, in the sense that you don't believe that it'll come through, but then you willingly put your life to an end by Bane, by assistance, because of that. Mm-hmm. It was as tricky as I don't know what, in terms of being able to contextualize that in a way that wasn't having me just revolted. And then also, you're right, that fallout, that retrospective, that time as a reader for us to look back, and if you're going to articulate it and make it that way, and then spell it out, make it clear, make us at least understand that we can go, okay, we take this moment as a reader, and we take that emotional connection and use that to really understand Alfred's opinion. We waited, like you said, several issues too late to get to that. By the time we did, we're expecting the story to continue. We've already made it into our heads that you are not going to address Alfred, and that we'll have to wait until the new year for that Alfred run to kind of see what was the mindset or whatever the case may be. And then you go, oh no, by the way, we're going to put this there, which not only stood as like a weird filler episode that you didn't really have that you could afford without making the cluster mess that you did of 85. But also, you're right. We've already moved on. It's been months at this point. We didn't move on. I mean, Alfred's dead, and that's Alfred and a big character. But in the sense that at this point, we see that you weren't going to address it like we thought you were. So you've already moved on with the story. And now you're like, oh, wait, nope, let's bring it back. And I just didn't get it.
So I guess we'll put a wrap up on, you kind of went over a lot of the issues with 85. I just did a review. If you want to hear my specific views on the way that they ended it, I'm not impressed. I wasn't impressed by the whole story arc. Now, this isn't the worst story arc that Tom King wrote. I maintain that Nightmares is probably the worst story arc I've ever read. And it's certainly worse than this one. But, he was done no favors by DC editorial, by DC cutting his run short by 20. You can see that he was trying to cram stuff in there because he hadn't explained enough beforehand. He didn't tell it in a logical, straightforward fashion. A lot of the payoffs they did not land. They weren't impactful. And some of them were downright disrespectful to the characters. Is there any way that you want to sum up your thoughts on City of Bane before we move on to James Tynion's run?
Massively disappointing, but with a glimmer of hope. Let's say that. No, I'm playing. I think that there was elements, like you said, it wasn't the worst. Nightmares was horrible. I wasn't even a big fan of War of Jokes and Riddles. There's a couple of Tom King's runs that were not his finer ones. This one was also on that list, but wasn't nearly as bad as others he's done. That being said, I came in with way too high expectations for a title called City of Bane, and the
there's no Bane,
and there's no Bane exactly, and that
not
alone,
even the main villain.
exactly, and also the main villain's motivations are paper thin and stupid. So all of that, I give it a massive disappointment because I actually believe that we would have a nice centered, focused issue, and I thought that him being cut from those additional issues was a blessing and a curse. Bad because obviously he already had plans for this, but a blessing because now you have to find a way to shrink down your story, make it less sprawling, keep it more focused, which I thought or think is when Tom King is at his best. We have a very limited series where you can start from the beginning and power through the end and keep a very taut story. And no, he just found a way to put filler episodes in that as well. Not go back to the main villain. Massively disappointing for me. And it's a shame. It's a shame.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that's, we didn't hit everything, but we hit enough. So I think people are going to understand what our issues with City of Bane was. Massive disappointment. I'm glad Tom King's run is over, and it's time to move on with the character and leave this behind us.
Cool. I'm with it. It's been a while, but let's go on to the future. New year, new Batman, new future.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Corbin, and putting a bow on City of Bane. And I'll talk to you soon. I'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
Sounds good, Wes. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.